You are listening to a Fonz Media Network production.
Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? Hush.
Hello, World Ablaze listeners. I'm back. I know it's been a few weeks. I apologize. I had business to take care of. In fact, it was all hands on deck. I had to pay attention to the business that was paying the bills, so I had to step away. But when I freaking popped my head back up, I cannot believe everything that's happened within the last few weeks. It's been crazy. It's been insane. We've had presidential debates. We just had a vice presidential debate. We've had a hurricane wipe out most of Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina, Asheville, Carolina, that whole area. Pretty much no power. We got interstates wiped out. And we still don't know what's going on with the 2 assassination attempts on Trump. And it's crazy that nobody seems to care. Actually, our government doesn't seem to care for whatever reason. In fact, before I get into all that, let me go ahead and pop this top here. All right. And, I think I owe everybody a drink. It's been a while. And instead of my usual whiskey or champagne, I'm going to have a nice microbrew here. I'm going to have a tall can of Scrimshaw, which is made by North Coast Brewing Company. Really good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and pour that into my tall glass here. Let's see if we can pick that sound up as well. Yeah, all right, a little bit. And I'm going to raise my glass to y'all, and here's a big cheers. Man, that is a tasty beer. I love these once in a while. Good stuff. All right, so with all that being said, we still don't know what's going on with the presidential assassination attempts. The assassination attempts on former President Donald Trump. Apparently somebody wants him out of the way. It's even been said that there are known to be 5 individual groups that are in search of or trying to kill Donald J. Trump. Tell me that's not crazy. And yet nothing's really being done. He had to fight and claw to get adequate security to protect him. And they finally said, okay, you know what? We're going to beef it up. We're going to get you a better agents, taller agents, stronger agents, faster agents that can really shoot, the whole deal. We're talking about cream of the crop Secret Service agents. So sure, but too little too late. The first assassination attempt, how do you get a young man, I mean, barely an adult, how do you get someone like that to suddenly just come up with this mastermind plan, get a long-range rifle, able to survey the entire area without being stopped or questioned, was able to fly a drone over the area to get overhead surveillance of everything, was within 150 yards with a straight, clear line of sight to where President Donald Trump was speaking, was seen by multiple people in the crowds and also a few officers on the roof with a weapon, and yet nobody responded. Where was the breakdown in communication? It really seems like this person was not acting alone. And I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat here and be a conspiracy theorist, but how do these things happen? How do these things happen in our time? When you got the technology these days, I mean, let's just be honest. I'm going to use Israel as an example. Everybody, here's another thing that happened, right? All the beepers going off and blowing people's dicks off and, and hands and whatnot. And I apologize for laughing because, look, I know it's sick. And regardless, a life is a life. But if we have the ability, and we're a much bigger nation with a lot more money and a lot more technology, if Israel can do that, how is it that you can tell me that the U.S. government, with the Secret Service, which is considered one of the best protection units there is on the planet, not be able to understand, respond, and keep something like this from happening? How could they not stop an individual? I mean, as soon as they knew there was a drone flying around, that's a red flag. I mean, that right away is a no-fly zone, right? So that was the first assassination attempt. I'm not going to go too deep into it because we already heard about it, right? There was evidence that came out, kind of, sort of. They finally did the toxicology report. Apparently, this person was not on any drugs or psychotic drugs, whatever. Nothing like that. Supposedly. Okay, but let's fast forward. Now we got Trump playing golf in Florida. It was a last minute, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go play some golf. Yet there was somebody sitting out by the fence, just cleared a little area on the fence, waiting for 12 fucking hours with an AK-47. They said an AK-47 style weapon. They didn't want to say AR-15. Usually that's their go-to, right? It was an AR-15. No, they specifically said AK-47, something that is completely, truly outlawed. Yet this person had one. The same person also had a backpack hanging out. There was pictures with ceramic plates in it hanging on the fence. Obviously, what are those used for? Well, to shield himself from any shots fired toward him. And of course, he had some food and whatever hanging there. So this person had planned this well in advance, was ready to go. But yet this was a last minute decision by Donald Trump to play golf. How in the hell does that happen? How is someone able to plan this out, know where he's going to be, if this was a last minute decision to play golf? Who is on the inside on Trump's team leaking information? Somebody is working on the inside, and dare I say government, to try to get rid of Trump. Now, you can say I'm crazy. You can say there's no way that's true, but you can't prove that it isn't either. I would like you to prove me wrong. By all means, my contact information is out there. I'm on X at FontsAblaze. Go ahead. Show me proof that that isn't the case. I'm not trying to Alex Jones this whole thing here, but the more and more that time goes by and these things happen, it is getting harder and harder to accept that they are not trying to go after Trump to get him out of the way. And maybe it's not the government. Maybe, but let's just take the second assassination attempt that they really didn't want to go over too well. They just kind of like glossed over. Say, hey, it kind of happened, sort of, whatever. Oh, we caught the guy. He never shot anybody, though. He didn't really shoot, but he was shot out by the Secret Service because they saw the fucking barrel sticking through the fence. So, of course, he didn't get a shot off because the Secret Service actually did their damn job to protect former President Trump. Okay? That's the only reason he didn't shoot. So let's just be honest with ourselves here. This same individual, by the way, has a record of getting into trouble, also has a record that states that he was in possession of a weapon of mass destruction. I mean, really? And has been in the Ukraine trying to recruit foreigners from Afghanistan to fight in the Ukraine war. This person goes back a ways. He's been on various interviews and news clips. Look, this guy, by all means, if you look at everything that's connected to this perpetrator here, this alleged assassin, he really seems like he's a government plant. CIA, FBI, I don't know. Now, I know this sounds like an accusation, not based on any actual facts, and you're correct, because there aren't any real facts coming out about this person. In fact, in both cases, suddenly nobody understands who these people are, their history, or how they even got to be in a position to try to assassinate former President Trump. Should we be concerned? Yes. Why? Because it's also come out that, and rumored and stated, that they know of 5 separate organizations that are looking to kill Donald Trump. 5. Not 1, 2, 3. No, 5. 5. What is so dangerous about Trump? Now, could it literally be that he will expose and take away everyone's way of life, their life that they live of privilege and power, where they put all the American people and all around them below them and treat them as their subjects? I mean, what do we exist for? Just to kick money up to the government so that they can do whatever the hell they want? It's almost as if you look at it, that the American people and the American government, they coexist, but they don't exist for each other. It's like the American government is claiming to be American, but not really representing America. They're just like this entity overseeing all of their subjects and literally just looking at us as nothing more than cattle. In fact, not even cattle, just assets that they use to squeeze and kick money up to them so they can continue their nefarious operations, buy their luxury homes, fly in their private jets, and enjoy their life with their fine champagne and their lobster dinners. Let's move on from Donald Trump. Well, actually, before I do that, can we maybe even surmise or theorize, whatever you want to say, however you want to coin this, that maybe, perhaps, possibly, that everything that is going on with these assassination attempts are because of both our current government and big media. Now, you say, how are they connected? Well, hell, didn't Facebook admit and come out with evidence that the government themselves was trying to force Facebook to censor people? In fact, our American government, with our current presidential candidates in Kamala Harris, not Donald Trump, but Kamala Harris and her running mate, Tim Walz, are very proud to say, yes, speech should be censored. Because if you say something that doesn't align with the message that they want you to believe in, it needs to be censored. Period. Bottom line. So we're now living in a really strange time, a time where it seems to be George Orwell's 1984. And I will say that it really seems as if they've taken this book literally and are using it as their manual on how they want to rule the world. Not just America, but the world. And so, getting back to the media, the message of the media, which most of it has been owned by big Democrat donors, the messaging by most of the big media, old school media, by the way, is that Donald Trump, for the last 8 years at least, or so, that he is the enemy, that he is a threat to democracy, a threat to the American way, a threat to America, a threat, a threat, a threat. This is the message by big media that has been backed and echoed by the Democratic Party. And hear me out. I'm not trying to say Democratic Party, good, bad, Republican Party, good, bad, but this is what has been happening. They can't stop talking about Trump. They can't stop saying nothing but he is the enemy of democracy. And that January 6th was the pinnacle of his blatant, tyrannical opposition to democracy and the American way of life. Although he never incited violence, it's been disproven. I have already gone over that in my show. I went over the timeline. Everything has been recorded, etc. So first off, that is not true, and we know that. But what we do know is true is that they have always said he's a threat to democracy and the American way of life. And fast forward, we have, well, 2 assassination attempts. In fact, almost 3. We forget that there were almost 3. There was a car bomb, a car filled with explosives at one of his rallies right there by the street where everybody was walking by. But that kind of got swept under the rug. In fact, I'm sure most everybody didn't even hear about it because it was a short-lived report. Even though the reporters who got the news, got the inside info, were tipped off that a bomb dog, when they're sweeping the area, identified a vehicle with explosives. And then it was later said, well, you know, the dog was in training and we can't really verify. Bullshit. Bullshit. Okay? I'm just going to say bullshit. So maybe the media is responsible for people's mindset and how they feel. Maybe they are intentionally going out of the way to influencing people to think and act in a way that is detrimental and harmful to Donald J. Trump. Maybe. Again, another tinfoil hat statement there, I know, but think about it. Think critically. Think about it. No, seriously, think about it. So moving on, we're about a month, less than a month away from the actual presidential election. And we just had a vice presidential debate on, I believe, CBS? CNN? I forget. I do know I watched it. I apologize. I wasn't really paying attention to the network that was hosting it. But I am going to say a few things on this. There are other podcasters out there. I won't name names, but let's just say some of them are also comedians. And they seem to think that this didn't matter, didn't move the needle, this doesn't matter at all. I disagree. I say this did matter because we finally had a debate that was a little bit more traditional. And some may say we don't need traditional debates in modern times. It's very stuffy. It's too conservative. And well, you may be correct on that to a degree. But this debate was a back and forth. It was literally hearing one person out and responding. It wasn't just slinging insults. And I think in today's times, it's sad that the American people are only moved and motivated by how well one presidential candidate can insult the other. We need to be talking about policy. We need to be talking about ideas and policy that are going to affect the country moving forward. And that was the one thing I took away from this vice presidential debate is you really got to see what each side represents. Now, I don't know who won. I side with saying J.D. Vance did. A lot of people say Tim Walz did. But there is a huge majority that say Tim Walz probably shit the bed on this one, to be honest. He did get caught in a few lies, and he was called out on them. And there was also, the network themselves trying to fact check J.D. Vance. And, that really didn't work out too well for him as J.D. Vance responded very confidently and snappily. And, well, did I say snappily? I did. Well, that's now a word. And so I thought the debate was fine. I thought it was good. I thought it was needed because we needed to get away from, again, the insult slinging, the yelling, the screaming, the babbling, the cackling. Let's get down to what each side represents, and that's what I liked about this. Now, we all have heard Tim Walz claim various things, such as his military record and trips to China and all of that. And he's been caught in his lies. Now, yes, he served in the military. Nobody debated that. The ranks that he supposedly achieved and was awarded have been in question and called out by his colleagues, not just the general public, but his colleagues actually were like, hold on, that's not quite how it went down. Well, on live TV, here's a clip of Tim Walz being called out on his trips to Tiananmen Square in China. And just like Kamala Harris, you got to hear this answer. He does a roundabout way of avoiding the question altogether, hopefully thinking that he said enough that you would just forget that you asked the question and just go with whatever he gave you and go, yeah, that sounds intelligent and fair. I think I'll go with that. Yeah. Okay, Timmy. But not so fast. I'm going to play this clip right here for you.
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice.
All right, so what's the answer, Tim? You sound just like Kamala. I mean, they're rubbing off on each other. It's like, hey, did you go to the store and buy that gallon of milk? I'm glad you asked that because I grew up in a small town where I rode my bike till the sun went down and the streetlights came. Like, what are you talking about? What? It's just like Kamala Harris. Like, I was raised in a middle class family. Like, get at it. What does that got to do with the fact that you were not in China at the time that everything was going on in Tiananmen Square? You were not in China. It didn't happen. It didn't happen, just like your military rank didn't happen. So, I'm sorry, Tim, but can we just stick to answering the questions? And oh, wait, you can't. That's why you gave this roundabout, long-winded story about your history using the GI Bill to become a young teacher, was National Guards person, rode your bikes till the sun went down, streetlights came. Okay, all right, got it. So you don't have an answer. Okay. Oh, you got caught. Right. Okay, got it. So that's what happened. You're lying. You're bullshitting. Okay, cool. Gotcha. So this kept going on. Now, what's funny though, when we kept going through the debate, the fact is that Tim Walz many, many times would be staring at JD Vance with this look on his face. And literally by the time Vance was given an answer, he goes, you know what? I agree with you. Tim Walz agreed with him. I don't know how many times, like 9 times. I know I'm just throwing that number up there. But it seems like by the time JD Vance was done speaking, at the end of every answer, all of a sudden Tim Walz was like, I agree with you, JD. I do. That's, you know what? You're right on that one. Well, if JD is right on most things, not all, but if he was right on most things, are you admitting that you're wrong on everything else, Tim? What does Kamala Harris stand for? What does the Democratic Party right now stand for? Now, the only argument that I think Tim Walz gave that was decent was when he gave the argument on abortion. We all knew that question was coming up because he made some great points. JD also made some great points. But abortion is a major topic of contention, and there isn't a black and white answer to it. You can't just cut the topic in half and say, here's the good, here's the bad. Here's pieces of good here, pieces of good there. Let me split this up and give you this solid answer that just goes right down the middle that we can all agree on. Because, well, we just can't. It's not going to happen. But it seems like, aside from supporting illegal immigrants, that abortion is the only other issue that the Harris campaign seems to support and thinks is going to win them the presidency. But the problem is, while that is a major issue, it is an issue, by the way. I'm not going to dismiss it. Everybody is dealing with something that affects all genders and all walks of life. There's 2 things, actually. The border crisis and the economy. And the economy's been shit. Now, the problem is that every time the economy comes up, they want to go ahead and blame Trump for the economy. Look, Trump has not been in office for nearly 4 years now, 3.5 years, almost 4 years. And in fact, before COVID hit, we had the best economy there was, period. And you could look this stuff up on government websites. This isn't just me talking. And in fact, I'm going to encourage you to do so. See, there's part of a thing I do with this show. I will always present facts, but then there's times where I'm like, I'm tired of presenting the facts to you because I know they're already out there. Why don't you do a little research yourself? Prove me wrong. Go for it. And if you do, let me know that I'm wrong. But in this case, I'm not. Look it up. You might be surprised by what you find. So they always want to blame Trump for the situation we are in now. Okay? And they promise, I'm going to fix it. We're going to fix it once we get into office. Look, you've been in office 3.5 years. I know a lot of people say, well, that's not a response. You cannot say that because they've been in office for 3.5 years. Kamala Harris isn't in a position to, fix anything. She's not the president. She's the vice president. She has plenty of power. She's second in command. She's the backup fucking quarterback. You're telling me she has no influence, no power whatsoever? She can't sway? I mean, they had a supermajority for the beginning of Biden's presidential term. She could have passed anything she wanted. She didn't. She could have passed anything, like literally. She has had the power. She has had the ability and has done nothing. But let's hear JD Vance respond to Tim Walz, because Tim Walz was blaming Donald Trump's record and the economy and how he handed over a bunk economy to Biden, and Biden and Harris had to deal with trying to rebuild the economy. And you know what? Sorry, but no one's buying it anymore. In fact, JD Vance went ahead and basically laid it down for everybody on national television and called him out as bullshit. Here's that clip.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics
that's a
show
gross generalization.
that he did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
You can't say any better. It's true. Common sense economic principles, not opportunity economy, not the Kamala Harris opportunity economy. I don't even know what that is, because it's bullshit. I don't want to hear the answer that I was raised in a middle-class family. Listen, Kamala, you were raised in a middle-class family in Canada. Both of your parents were freaking professors. They were revered in their fields. Like, get out of here with that bullshit. So this is what happened consistently, referring back to the clip I just played, in the vice presidential debate. J.D. Vance responded and basically crumbled Tim Walz's defenses like you wouldn't believe. And when it was getting bad, the moderators had to try to step in and throw a nice little fact check in there to make J.D. Vance look bad when they were talking about the Haitian immigrants over in Ohio and everything that's been going on over there. They fact checked J.D. and J.D. said, hold on there, you're not quite right. And then they didn't like J.D.'s answer. They didn't like what he was saying, so they tried to move the conversation along and eventually muted his mics. So let me go ahead and play that.
Thank you, Governor. And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
we're
because
going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules were that you guys weren't going to
we're-
fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
You hear how they were responding to JD condescendingly, like, "Oh, thanks for letting us know the legal aspects." Hold on, you don't have a right. You don't have a right to step in and fact check without actual facts. You don't have a right to go ahead in a debate with two candidates that are in the running to literally represent the entire United States. I mean, listen, let's just be real. If Donald Trump or Kamala are voted in and they happen to literally something happens to them, God forbid, but if it does, these people are the next in line. And these moderators are cherry picking their fact checks without having the full facts behind them to correct these candidates. It's like, they're just like, no, I want the conversation to go this way. And so I'm going to tell you the sky is red, not blue. And in fact, if you look out right now, it kind of looks red. Sure, during sunset, but during any other time of the day, it's pretty much a hue of blue. So you got to have all the facts. You got to have all the facts here. And I think these moderators need to just shut their fucking mouths and let these people debate so that we, as the American people, can do our own critical thinking and make our own decisions. The American people are not stupid. What we want to hear is a debate. I want to hear responses from both sides. I'm sure that the American people know if one person is lying and the other one isn't, or you should be informed enough to know that. And we can make our own decisions. We don't need to be swayed by the moderator to lean one way or the other. Period. And I wish this format would go away where the moderators could step in and fact check. I mean, what the fuck's that about? If they're saying something blatantly outlandish, sure. Let's go ahead and fact check. If JD Vance, for example, said arsenic is good for you and you should consume as much arsenic as possible, well, we know that's a blatant lie because you're gonna fucking die. Sure, fact check that. But when we're talking about the illegal immigration problem we have and what's going on all over the country, by the way, but specifically they were talking about Ohio and the Haitian immigrants, you got to tell the whole story. But JD, being as smart as he is, was able to respond, and they did not like that. Now, I know it sounds like I'm just siding with JD Vance on this, but the only reason I am is because he was very good in his responses. It wasn't perfect. Neither of them were perfect, to be honest. But JD responded very well. When he was under pressure, he didn't crumble and fold, where Walz did, actually. You can see his frustration, his facial expressions. And he didn't like being backed in the corner. And when his, bird walk of an answer that he would give, referring back to his answer on being in China at that time, I believe in 88, 89, whatever it was, that when that didn't work, he didn't know what to do. Because usually that does work in politics. In old school politics, that worked. People are used to just hearing someone sound intelligent, to hearing an answer that sounds like they know what they're talking about. But these days, I think people are over it. They're like, yeah, but you didn't really answer the question. And so did this matter? Did this debate matter? I'm just going to say this. If you didn't see it, you should see it. Why? Because it really did show what each party stood for. At least what each presidential campaign party stood for. I think it's worth watching. I think it was great in the fact that you got to actually see a real debate rather just, than a bunch of mudslinging, which I am not a fan of, although it is very entertaining. And Donald Trump being the ultimate entertainer when it comes to that style of debate or insults. I think it was good to see a traditional debate. And again, take some time, check it out. Even if you're looking at the highlights, whatever you got to do, just check it out and make your own decisions, because I think this was a better representation of what each side stands for in their campaign and in their run for the president. Even though it was the VPs debating, it still had the issues being discussed that each presidential candidate stands for. Now, aside from the vice presidential debate, seems like we're on the verge of World War III. Israel's going hard at trying to abolish their enemies, and in fact, going out of the way to basically kill every single leader of Hamas or any terrorist organization that they deem to be a detriment to their country. I mean, literally, as soon as one is killed, another one is elected as the leader of that particular terrorist group. They die the next day. Israel is on fire, but the problem is they're doing it while in other countries, and they're antagonizing other powers such as Iran, who is now in the mix and is retaliating. I mean, where are we at? This whole thing is going to just boil over. It's going to boil over into another mass war. We still got what's going on in Ukraine. We can't even get a handle on what's going on over there. We have all these crazy wars going on that are eventually just going to become one giant war. And who do we blame? I don't know. Do we blame Joe Biden for not stepping up and really handling and, managing the situation, being the strong leader that he should have been, being the strong America that the world is used to, and stepping in and trying to manage what's happening? Is it our fault? Or is it really, we point the blame where it needs to go? Is it Russia? Or is it Ukraine? Was it Zelensky? And in the case of what's going on in the Middle East, why can't we point the finger at Israel? I get retaliating. I really do. Look, the attack that happened on that October 7th, okay, where they literally just wiped out a bunch of innocent people at a large music festival, raped young women so brutally that they were bleeding from between the legs, their hips displaced, their legs broken and backwards because they were being raped by 10, 15, 20 individuals. They were being hunted down. All individuals were just being hunted down, blown up, shot without mercy, decapitated. I mean, it was a brutal attack. It was not an attack in where, another group was retaliating for years of abuse or being antagonized or whatever. No. This was a brutal attack. It was people going out of their way to make a statement, a brutal statement, and they did. And Israel had every right to respond, and they did respond. But they haven't stopped responding. They keep responding, and they keep going and going and going. And look, as a country, they have a right to do what they want to protect themselves. If they think this is what they need to do, that is on them. But don't look over your shoulder thinking Big Brother America is going to come to your aid when you create the shit storm that you were creating. I think Israel needs to stand on its own on this one. You want to make the decisions to go ahead and go deep and long and hard on your play here, then you need to be responsible for your actions. They obviously do not care. And I get that they had a right to stand up for themselves and retaliate. Believe me, I'm not saying they didn't. Every country that was in that situation should. Hell, we went ahead and hunted down bin Laden and made sure that he was executed. I get it. But when you're destroying cities and homes of innocent people and you're intentionally killing innocent people, it now goes from retaliation to genocide. But hey, they got a little smarter. They're getting more targeted. They are now blowing up pagers and cell phones of terrorists themselves. They're targeting the individuals that they should have been targeting the whole time, not the average person just trying to make their way in the world. But they're antagonizing other powers that we don't need to be involved because it's going to create a bigger situation. Because if Iran wants to really do a full-on attack against Israel, guess what's going to happen? Under the United Nations agreement, we're going to get dragged into this. France is going to get dragged into this. The UK is going to get dragged into this. I mean, multiple countries are going to start to come into this all because of what Israel is doing. And I'm not saying I hate Israel, by the way, so don't you even play that bullshit on me or call me anti-Semitic. I'm just saying that as a country, the choices that they have made are going to affect the entire world and not in a good way. And we don't need this right now. World War I was horrible. World War II is even worse. And do we really need a World War III with the modern weaponry and capabilities that we have? Do you really want to see the full fury and might of China? Do you want to see the U.S. turn into the devil they can be? Do you really want that? No, you don't. So Israel, I don't know what your play is, what you're trying to do, but whatever you're doing, get it done quickly, and stop assuming that Big Brother America is going to just always have your back, because we have for many years. But you're now obviously using America as a tool, as a crutch, as a way, and a warning for you to just do whatever the hell you want. And that's not right. And by the way, use your own fucking money too. We're tired of giving money away to you. You're rich enough. You have your own wealth. You can handle your own shit. Will we be there if you're in dire need? Absolutely. But the way things are going now, we don't want any part of this. We don't want a part of this war that can literally become World War III, all because you have nothing but hate and vengeance in your heart. Now let's get back to America. Let's get back to the government's blatant dismissal of its own people and lack of responsibility to its own people. Y'all heard about the big old hurricane that just basically destroyed North South Carolina. Ashland doesn't even seem to exist. And what's going on? What does our government want to do? They want to give $750 in assistance. That's right, $750. I mean, they're not doing anything different than what they did for Hawaii. Remember all the fires in Hawaii? The assistance that they got, which was a big old goose egg, basically nothing, nada, zilch, zero. Well, let's talk about what's going on in Carolina after the hurricane. Same shit. Nothing. This place has been ravaged. Roads are destroyed. Towns are destroyed. People are displaced. And our government wants to give them $750. Now let's make sense of this. An illegal immigrant can come to the country right now and literally get, I think, $5,000, $10,000 or even more on a credit card without any responsibility. Get food stamps. All right, they get everything they need. They get housing, and the residents of South and North Carolina that were displaced and their towns wiped out, they get offered $750. And in fact, even though the power's out everywhere, if you do happen to have power, you can apply for assistance online. Doesn't get any more fucking comical. Is there any more evidence that you need that your government does not like you? That they're literally just tolerating you for your tax money? I'm going to play a clip of Kamala actually saying that she's going to go ahead and offer up to $750. Literally $750. Listen to this.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met.
How are you not embarrassed to say that number? That include providing $750. What are you supposed to do with $750 when your house is underwater, on fire, there's no power, your car is buried? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? $750? Really? That's what the government wants to offer these people, the American people, the people living in America? Yet we have no problem sending billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, sending millions and billions of dollars to Israel so they can continue to act out and fight wars. Does this make sense at all? And in fact, how many countries, is there a list of any countries that have donated to America to help us in our time of need? I mean, anyone? I'm listening. I don't hear it. You know what that sound is? That's right. Crickets. Crickets. Because countries don't care about America either. Nobody comes to America's aid. They just all hold their hand out for our aid and our money. Oh, what a crazy, crazy time that we live in right now. I take a few weeks off. America is nuts. The world is nuts. They want to kill President Trump. Kamala Harris doesn't know what the fuck she's doing and offers $750 to people who are displaced and just gone through a natural disaster. Israel is doing whatever Israel does and trying to drag the whole world into a war with them. What the hell are we going to do? Listen, I don't know if it's going to make that much of a difference. I hope it does, but if President Trump is reelected to be the current president of the United States, all we can hope for is that wars will end and that the economy will right itself and that we will see our government actually care for the American people once again. Thank you for listening. I apologize for the time off. Please like, subscribe, and share the show. Message me on X at FontsAblaze. And once again, have a day.
Hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell.